Last week, the Indian government put out an advisory for all media channels. It basically asked all channels, digital and television, to exercise caution when reporting on defense matters. There's been a lot of debate about what that actually meant. So we'll break down in this video what the advisory said, whether or not it was necessary, and why it was actually put out. To begin with, let's take a look at the advisory. It came out from Kshitij Agarwal, Deputy Director, Information and Broadcast Ministry. And this is what it said. Point number one, it said, in the interest of national security, all media platforms, news agencies, social media users are advised to exercise utmost responsibility and adhere strictly to existing laws and regulations when reporting on matters of defense and security related operations. Point two, and this is the important one, it said specifically no real-time coverage, no dissemination of visuals or reporting on source-based information related to defense operations, movement should be undertaken at all. Premature disclosure of sensitive information may inadvertently assist hostile elements and endanger operational effectiveness and the safety of our personnel. It also went on to say past incidents have underscored the importance of responsible reporting. It listed out Kargil war, Mumbai terror attacks, and the Kandahar hijacking, where unrestricted coverage actually had an adverse consequence on national interest. Media, digital platforms, and individuals play a vital role in safeguarding national security. Our collective actions should not compromise ongoing operations or the security of our forces. It then goes on to list out the cable television network rules, which specifically say that no program should be carried out which contains live coverage and you should of any anti-terrorist operation by security forces. The media coverage should be restricted to a briefing or a press conference by a designated officer after the operation concludes. So it says that all television channels are advised not to telecast live coverage of anti-terrorist operations or movement of our security forces, and media coverage may be restricted to periodic briefing of designated officers. And it asks for vigilance, sensitivity, and responsibility. Now, what does this actually mean? It means that if journalists happen to be in the mountains and they notice movement of defense forces, do not record it, do not put it out real time. If journalists are in touch with sources inside various ministries and you come to know of plans the government has made or plans the government is considering, do not report it source-based real time. Do not put out any information about an operation that is currently ongoing. Wait until the operation has concluded and a designated officer of the government holds a press conference confirming that such a thing has happened, because any sort of premature reporting or live reporting of visuals can actually endanger the lives of our forces and of course risk the entire operation altogether. The three examples that have been cited, the Kargil war from 1999, which you'll remember, at that time, electronic media or television media was nascent. It was just starting out. There were many media outlets at that point who were covering the war on the ground, NDTV, Star News. And in fact, Major General Ashok Mehta had called it India's first war on television. Journalists were criticized for giving away details of covert operations of military locations through their coverage and through the use of satellite phones. In fact, Brigadier Umesh Singh Baba, who was commanding the 17th Jat Regiment in the Kargil War in 1999, had pointed out, and he had made a comment saying a few reporters gave away the Indian Army positions to Pakistan and invited counter bombardment by sending out live reports via a cell phone. The Mumbai terror attack, we'll remember, live coverage had actually shown the Indian commandos being airdropped from a helicopter, you'll remember that visual, onto the roof of the Taj Hotel. We later found out that the terrorists who were hauled up inside the hotel were actually watching all of this live on the news channels themselves, and that's how they could figure out what India was planning. And the fact that the commandos had been brought to Bombay, they had landed Mumbai, they had landed in the airport, they were being moved. All of these details they found out from watching television. And so there was a point there where the television coverage actually hindered the operations and endangered the lives of citizens and security forces. In the Kandahar hijack, in fact, in 2006, the Foreign Secretary Shams Charan had actually made a statement saying the government found it difficult to handle the hijacking of IC-814 in Kandahar because, he said, and I'm quoting, the media publicly proved to be a burst of oxygen for the hijackers. The media complicated the matter, he said. In fact, in 2019, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a statement where he was talking about social media and fake news and sensationalism, he compared it to the coverage of the hijacking, the Kandahar hijacking, where he basically said at that time TV, electronic media was young and new. They sensationalized the stories of distressed citizens. They gave courage to the terrorists. And there was a thought that, there was a lot of pressure on the Indian government and they would do whatever the terrorists wanted. And this was a comment by the Prime Minister himself. So pointing out repeatedly that this sort of coverage is irresponsible and it hurts India, it hurts our forces, and it hurts the plans that the government is making. And that's what it means. So for example, over the weekend, the Indian Navy had actually put out visuals of an operation that it was considered, doing an exercise, and with a statement that we're ready anytime, anywhere. Now, this is in the public domain, actually released by the Navy themselves. This is okay. Anything that comes out from official information from official sources in the public domain, the government has chosen to put out in the public domain, is okay. The source-based information, the live information, information about operations that are still underway, these are the things that the government is recommending or asking the media to refrain from actually covering. But at the same time, while the government has put out this advisory, there is another advisory that should have gone out to national media that's currently calling for war quite publicly on its platform. And this I find quite interesting because it goes against the basic ethics of what we're taught in journalism school, because it's not the job of the media to tell the government what to do or to put pressure on the government as to this is what we want, because there are potential real world consequences when the media does that. One of the things is that it whips up public sentiment, it puts pressure on government, and it doesn't allow the government to actually act in a cold, calculated manner, which is what it appears our government is doing. And this sort of baying for blood that's happening on television, the warmongering, actually puts pressure on the government at a time when they have to be really mindful coverage that's actually happening. The political ramifications, the real world ramifications of what they're doing is also the fact that the government in situations like this will consider its economic options against Pakistan, its political options, its diplomatic options, its options on the global stage, along with its military options. So to actually push one specific idea without acknowledging all of the other ideas and the other work or the options the government has on the table is doing a disservice not just to the people who are watching your telecast, but also to the government and the people who are planning. Besides, this aggressive rhetoric damages international relations with all of the conversations the government might be having right now across the globe. It has an economic consequences, right? And remember, just before this attack happened, we were talking about how China is currently in a trade war with the US, and the idea that India could take China's place as a place of business to do business with the world. But loud rhetoric, irresponsibly by Indian media about war, will actually, send a sort of wrong message to foreign investors, to foreign business, to tourism, to economic stability, to the stock market, that this is something that's actively being considered without any sort of real confirmation from government as to what is being considered, which is why it becomes irresponsible towards the entire country. The media should actually stay away from rhetoric and actually only report calmly and collectively the facts that have been confirmed by the government. That is the job. Very clearly, the government is telling us themselves that that is the job, that you ask questions and you report only on things that have been confirmed. So while the government has said that do not report on live visuals, on operations that are currently on source-based information, the media, especially mainstream and television, needs to take a look at the kind of messaging that they're sending out to the world right now. And if that is in fact responsible, or if it is journalism, it's certainly not responsible journalism, but is it responsible and is it journalism at all?